folks, I hope you're good. So this is a follow-on video from the terminology video, which was about force-free, positive reinforcement and holistic dog training. Now this is going to help you find a dog trainer, do some due diligence. I started looking on the internet and I thought, okay, this is going to be easy. I'm going to look at some websites, I'm going to look at some local dog trainers in the area, I'm going to look at some competent ones, I'm going to look at not so competent ones, and I'm going to pick out what is the good stuff, what is the bad stuff, the positive to look for, the negative to look for. And very quickly I kind of felt a little bit sick. I started to get a bit overwhelmed, and I started to feel like you guys feel when you're looking for a dog trainer, because I suddenly realized it was completely overwhelming. What I thought were good, competent, and what I thought were not competent, all of them had good websites, and suddenly I was overwhelmed and I was like, how the heck am I going to make a video on this? Unfortunately or fortunately, what I came up with is you're not really going to screen them out at the website stage. You're just not. You're going to have to go a little bit deeper, and that's going to be either interviewing them on the phone, which I'm going to go through now, or just working with them, assessing them as you work with them, and then politely withdrawing if you don't think they're actually qualified enough. Before we crack on with how to interview a potential dog trainer on the phone, just going to go through two organisations with you. The first is the ABTC. It's linked in the description. The Animal Behaviour Training Council. It's an umbrella organisation. It's not a regulated industry, but this is the closest thing we have, and they are trying to become the actual regulatory body. It's an umbrella organisation, so all of the other fully assessed organisations feed into it. For example, my organisation, the Association of Pet Dog Trainers UK, the APDT, they assess me and then they apply for membership to the ABTC. So anyone on that list, they're listed by job type, so they've got behaviourists and trainers on there. Anyone on there is going to be a really good starting point. You're still going to want to interview them on the phone, because why not? I'm going to give you this information in this video, but that's a really good starting point. Also, the charter, the animal training charter, that is it's not fully assessed, but it's a set of ethics which align with positive reinforcement and force-free. So anyone that shows their charter membership on their website is also going to be a good place to start. Here's where it gets a bit more confusing and overwhelming. Don't rule out trainers that are not on those organisations. I have a few very special colleagues who are absolutely amazing, and they are not on those organisations, and they're some of the best in the country, if not the best in the world. So don't get too hung up on the ABTC and the charter. You can still do your own due diligence. You may be in an area geographically where someone is not available to you on one of those lists, or it might be that the people on those lists are fully booked for a long time, which can happen as well. So it's a good starting point, but what is coming next on this video is probably going to be more important. So you've got your shortlist, you've looked at the website. Admittedly, we already said the websites are pretty overwhelming, the reviews are overwhelming, so you're going to have to go to this step. So you've got your shortlist, maybe 3 to 5 dog trainers. You're going to chat to them on the phone. You're going to ask them 3 open-ended questions. There's probably more, but these are 3 that I really like. And that's going to just tease out of them what they really stand for as a dog trainer and behaviourist. First one I would ask, let's say your dog is barking. You could ask something like, what could the reason be that my dog is barking? What could the possible causes be? And then you just sit back, let them talk. Give them enough time to talk. So if you get an answer like, well, there's lots of different reasons. Your dog could be bored, your dog could be attention seeking, your dog could be frustrated, your dog could be in pain. Anything like that. It's a really good answer, because it means they're thinking about the reason. They're not just looking to stop the symptom. Going to indicate they are thinking about your dog as an individual and probably looking at it holistically. If they say your dog's trying it on, your dog's trying to be dominant, don't worry, that breed is stubborn, we're going to whip them into shape. Or they're saying it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter why they're barking, we're just going to stop it. If they have any sort of guarantee that they know exactly why your dog is barking, how do they know? They haven't met you, they haven't met your dog. They shouldn't. Doesn't make sense for them to be giving any sort of guarantee that they know exactly why your dog is barking. It's going to indicate that they either, I know it sounds harsh, they either don't know what they're doing or they're just going to suppress the symptom. They're probably going to be using quite crude, unsophisticated, heavy-handed techniques potentially, or simply they're just inexperienced and they've never had to answer that question before in that context, and they've just thought, well, I better tell them something, otherwise I'm going to lose the job. Actually, an experienced trainer behaviorist is not going to be afraid to say, I don't know, but we're going to find out. Second question you're going to ask them: what would you do if the training wasn't working? Again, sit back, just give them time to answer, see what they say. So if they say something like, well, then don't worry, I've got 10 different ways to teach each exercise. If it wasn't working, we would puzzle solve, we would problem solve, we'd take a step back, we'd look at why your dog wasn't responding. Is it the environment? Is it the method? Is it something else about me? Maybe we'd just take a breather, maybe we'd try a different exercise, maybe we'd try a completely different exercise, maybe we'd come back to that later. Anything like that, where they're not going to see it as an adversarial challenge that your dog didn't do it. They're going to step back, they're going to look at and analyse the reasons why your dog didn't do it, and they're going to come at it from a different angle in a dynamic way. Anything like that is going to be a lovely answer. If they say, oh, that breed is stubborn, or don't worry about that, I've never had a dog, don't know why I'm doing this in a Cockney accent, it's a bit stereotyping. If they say, I've never had a dog that would not do something for me, ooh, a bit of a red flag there. If they're saying stuff like, well, we've got tools for that, we've got tools, if the dog's not complying, we can show them who's boss, anything like that. So anything that's really a demonstration that they're not going to puzzle solve it as an individuality problem, and they're just going to do what they usually do. Probably a good word would be strong arm. So they're going to somehow force the result. Anything like that is obviously going to be a red flag. Final question, just weave it into the conversation somewhere. Do you factor in to the training the dog's emotions? Do you take into account the dog's emotions? Or you could ask, what if the dog is not enjoying the training? Something like that. Obviously, it's a similar question to the last question. You're looking for the trainer to say, well, we wouldn't make the dog do anything that they didn't want to do. There's different ways of teaching things. Maybe the emotion is part of the problem. Maybe there's an emotional problem. If the dog is displaying an emotional challenge, maybe that's an underlying reason that you've contacted me in the first place, and maybe that will be a clue as to where we need to go next with the training. If they dismiss it, change the subject, poo-poo it, anything like that, where they're unsure of really what to say. I think this one, if they've never thought about the dog's emotions, they're going to struggle to answer it. They may say something like, oh yes, I've worked with fear-based behaviours before, but you could then say, well, what if the dog just emotionally didn't look like they were enjoying the training? What would you do? Again, it might be, I've been to fields where the dog just didn't like that field, and we had a bad session, it wasn't great, and we met in a different field. We went to the local area of the people and we had a great session. So it could be as simple as changing the environment, for example. Could be that The dog doesn't like the lead, it doesn't like the harness, it doesn't like the collar. Could be that there's something about the trainer that the dog is worried about, and you might have to work through that first. So you're just looking for some demonstration of experience that they've worked through emotional hurdles which are blocking progress to the training, which is very common. One of the first things we do as trainers and behaviorists, if we're holistic, is look at the emotional state of the dog and work through any hurdles that are blocking progress. Happens a lot. So you've chosen your dog trainer, you had your phone calls, you've chosen the one that you like the best, that has demonstrated that they're thinking about logic-based training, they're thinking about the dog's emotions. You've started working with the trainer. Some things to look out for, really obvious stuff, like observing the dog's emotions still. Are they moving around freely, or are they suppressed and very still, for example? All of the other stuff, like the low tail tucked under, the ears back, the licking of the lips, the yawning. Look for the stress signals. Look for evidence that the trainer is enjoying the training and not just trying to get the behavior. It's not, dog training shouldn't be just results based. I know that sounds weird, but it's an animal, it's a living, breathing creature. We're looking at, is the animal enjoying itself? Is it moving freely, or is it just literally suppressing all behaviors? This is obvious stuff. I'm not going to go too much into this one, to be honest. However, the one that I do think is probably my number one, it follows on from the second question from the interview section. Now you've got your eyes on the trainer. Look what they do when something doesn't work. Say that again. Look what they do when something doesn't work. Are they getting frustrated, getting adversarial? They don't know what to do. They're flustered. They get out a choke chain. They get out a prong collar. They get out a shock collar. They don't have a second way of training the exercise. They don't want to let the dog go and have a breather, go and have a drink. Maybe it needs to go to the toilet, simple stuff like that. So look, my number one thing when you're working with the trainer, look for the trainer being able to sit back, ponder, and adapt the training to what the dog is showing them. Final tip would be, again, very similar but slightly different. Is your trainer just trying to solve your goals, or are they actually assessing what the dog's needs might be? So, beautiful example. Have a lovely new client at the moment. They hired me for pulling on the lead, and within the end of the first session we realised that the pulling on the lead was actually an obsession on the street with hunting cats. So we're not dealing just with pulling on the lead as an obedience task, we're dealing with desensitizing to cats. Now, if, using this example, the dog trainer comes in and they become purely focused on stopping the pulling, by all means necessary, again, prong, choke, but not just that, they're just obsessed with fixing the pulling. They haven't given you any reason why the pulling is there, for example. Just like the barking, there's many reasons why a dog will pull. When it's chronic pulling, they should be assessing, diagnosing, because there may be an emotional underlying reason. There may what looks like a behavior, what looks like a training case may be a behavior case. So those are my top tips. So to summarize, if the trainer behaviorist is logic based, they're giving you reasons for why they're doing things, they're thinking about the dog's emotions, they are not afraid to take a step back and puzzle solve if something's not working, they've got more than one way to teach something, they're not afraid to put something on the shelf and come back at it at a different angle later, anything like that is going to be a really good person to move forward with, regardless of whether they're on one of those associations or not. But obviously that's a nice to have as well. If they're not displaying any of those skills or facets, then you are within your rights to say, this doesn't quite tally with my expectations, or this doesn't quite tally with what I was hoping for, or what Paul said on his video. You're within your rights to politely decouple, move away, fizzle it out, and then try again with a different trainer. There's nothing wrong with that. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I certainly enjoyed making it. Maybe we can enjoy future videos together, so please consider subscribing. Thank you and God bless.